Well, hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. I'm Corny Swiss, and today I want to start by saying, and I feel like I say this a lot, and it's probably true. Sorry there haven't been any videos. You know, you can. I think the YouTube upload history is a very good indication of my relative level of other stuff I need to do. If I only push out 2, 3 videos a week, well, that tells you there's a lot of other stuff I have to do, and that's been pretty true. But it's sort of centered around just the next month or so, where it's kind of like all those job things, trying to get all get interviews, offers, all that stuff, all things you have to deal with. But hopefully that gets wrapped up, and it should be wrapped up by October, and that should be pretty good. So, what's been happening? Another thing I want to talk about is the rambles. Now, the reason I haven't been any rambles is not for a lack of topics, but mainly just due to me and Phil just not being able to schedule the time to sit down and do them. I've been busy, he's been busy, but when we're both busy, it becomes a problem. So that's why we haven't been doing them. But we're going to keep doing them. It's just we need to kind of get to that point where we can put that much time together at once and put them together. So, that's that. Let's talk about some, I guess, news. So, I read on Reddit today, and I think I believe it, that War Thunder 1.53 will arrive in about 2 weeks. Now, I was initially skeptical, but the source is, it seemed okay. It actually fits kind of in the timeline, because there's been Reddit posts in the past where people have predicted release dates for updates and things like that, and they're usually actually fairly accurate, based on when the dev blogs start and the dev server, which we haven't seen yet, but I'm hoping we probably will very soon if it's 2 weeks out. When we start seeing those, there's like a window of time. It's all very prescribed, it seems. So 2 weeks actually seems reasonable, and that's pretty exciting, because British tanks and all this stuff, the destructible environment, which seems to be in its infancy, but that should still add a new element to the game and be pretty cool, at least from a visual perspective. In addition to War Thunder doing 1.53, World of Warships is launching on September 17th, which happens to be in about 11 days at the time of this recording. And that's when NA will finally get the Tirpitz, which I will say I am a little... to me, it doesn't make sense why you put things on one server and not the other. I mean, that didn't make sense to me why the Tirpitz was put onto EU before NA, but I guess at the end of the day we're going to get it. It doesn't matter. But it does kind of lose the thunder for the NA world. I look at it a couple different ways. While it doesn't, in terms of gameplay, it really doesn't matter because no one has the Tirpitz on NA. But in terms of just, trying to cover the game and from a YouTube perspective and things like that, it means that when I post a review on the Tirpitz, it's going to be a few weeks late to the party. Everyone's already going to have their opinions and their thoughts and things like that already out. So, it's one of those things where, I'm never the first for anything in terms of review. I usually end up taking a long time to do them. But it is maybe a little annoying that I have to take longer than usual just because I just don't have access to it. But all that being put aside, the World of Warships getting launched in 10, 11 days. That should be pretty cool as well. So a lot of big things are happening, and I do find it interesting that, and it makes perfect sense really, why Wargaming and Gaijin seem to have updates released on relatively the same days, or same part of the calendar. And when you think about it, it really makes sense, because when you're competing with someone, and you can argue whether or not Gaijin and Wargaming are actually really competing, because they both kind of carved out their niche. And for example, World of Warplanes will never surpass War Thunder Air Forces. It's just not going to happen. War Thunder has done a tremendous job with planes. However, World of Tanks does a little bit, in my opinion, is able to hold the audience better than War Thunder Ground Forces. That doesn't say anything about which one's better, because that's just not a can of worms I'm going to open. Because I like both, but I especially like War Thunder Ground Forces, and I play it more than World of Tanks. So that should be I guess that should be some indication of where I stand on it. But the World of Tanks audience is much bigger than War Thunder, in my opinion, in the War Thunder Ground Force, in my opinion. Just from seeing kind of the relative sizes of different you can look at YouTube channels, you can look at streamer, just all types of things. It seems that there's a larger audience there, and it's a commingled audience. It's not just one. And then you have World of Warships, which is kind of off by itself right now because there isn't a Gaijin equivalent. However, it seems to be that, based on, I believe, if I read a dev Q&A or whatever it was properly, it's going to be British tanks, and then work might be resuming on War Thunder Naval Forces. My concern on that is that it's kind of like you're pushing something out the door, but not making it right, like not making it as good as it needs to be, I think. For example, I don't think War Thunder Ground Forces is there yet. It's certainly not there in terms of switching to another project. And while they'll be developed and, Ground Forces won't be kind of thrown under the rug, while they're working on Naval Forces, but still, to me it feels like you definitely want to finish what you started with Ground Forces before you move on to Naval Forces, and kind of maybe get in trouble by putting too much on your plate in terms of development work, because there are things that I think need fixing in Ground Forces that I don't feel like are that tremendously hard to fix. So, I guess maybe I'm a little worried about work actually moving to Naval Forces. Well, although I am very excited about it, and I think having two options in the kind of the naval warfare world will be pretty cool. I mean, it's nice to have options for both sides of the coin, right? Yeah, it's nice to have World of Tanks and Ground Forces. It's nice to have, it's nice when both options are competitive, because I guess I almost said it's nice to have World of Warplanes and War Thunder Air Forces, but it's one of those things where the competition just isn't there. So that would be nice. I'm never going to root against the game, and I won't. I did try World of Warplanes. I was like, it just didn't hold me as well. And at the time I tried it, I think it was when Ground Forces were kind of in the infancy, or I had just gotten into the CBT or something like that. So I was playing that. But the point still stands. It's nice to potentially have a mix of both, where you have the arcade style offering and then also the more realistic offering, where it's more focused on maybe historical accuracy or kind of real life mechanics. Like, for example, World of Tanks doesn't really do interior module damage the same way War Thunder does. There is module damage, but it's not like it is in War Thunder, where your crew members just, if you lose, basically it's more hardcore in War Thunder, I think. It's difficult to explain because they both have the same mechanics, but in War Thunder you have the whole thing about the shell's after penetration effect being modeled. And World of Tanks, if that is, it's not represented, whereas in War Thunder it's very represented. And I imagine World of Warships and War Thunder Naval Force will be similar, where there will be a more focus on what actually happens when a shell penetrates a ship, or just a ship. It just penetrates it anywhere in the ship. And World of Warships does a decent job in terms of like kind of modeling sort of. It does it with the damage model, where if it penetrates and it doesn't over penetrate, it does a lot of damage, you know. Or if it penetrates, if it over penetrates, it doesn't do a ton of damage. It doesn't do very much damage. Things like that are modeled, which is cool. But I feel like Naval Force are going to kick it up an extra notch, and we're really going to see. We're It's really going to be cool because we'll probably. I don't know. I learned a lot from ground forces just on how tanks sort of react when they get hit by things. And you know, I think the lessons learned are more. I feel like they're more maybe hardcore just because the margin of error is slimmer. Where if you get hit, you can be blown up. For example, in this situation, I'm finding myself, if I kill this locust with that shot, I actually stand a good chance of getting out of here. I am in a very strong tank, T-34, but you know, that locust is actually going to cause me some problems. He's just hammering my engine block, and while he doesn't do a ton of, he's not going to hurt me very much. You know, kill the Sherman, he's the bigger priority target, but this locust is actually going to cause me some problems because he's damaged my engine, and it doesn't help that I get hit right there that, you know, disables my ability to shoot him. But if I'd killed him on the first shot, it's conceivable I could have turned and maybe not been blown up by, or not been really wrecked by the guy who ended up killing me, or shooting me, really. So I don't know, because I don't end up dying, so. But anyway, so that's kind of what I've been thinking, I guess, today. War Thunder 1.53 on the way, World of Warships launch on the way. Rambles will make their triumphant return. We just gotta schedule the times properly, and yeah. So thanks for watching. I've been Corny Swiss. I'll see you next time.